We begin tonight with the National Summit of the ruling All Progressive Congress, where President Bola Tinubu claimed his administration has performed tremendously well since taking office 2 years ago. President Tinubu insists his economic reforms are working despite how tough the impact has been on Nigerians. He pointed at the removal of fuel subsidy as one of the achievements of his administration so far, noting that the decision is irreversible and that the funds have now been channeled towards infrastructure projects, health and education. He added that he is committed to his promise of taking Nigerians out of poverty, regardless of the obstacles. Part of the highlights of the summit is the endorsement of President Tinubu as APC's presidential flag-bearer for the 2027 polls by the Senate President Godswill Akpabio and Speaker of the House of Representatives Tajuddin Abbas.
It's one party ruling and driving the aspiration of Nigerians. Where do they start? You don't blame a people bailing out of a sinking ship when they have no life jacket. I'm glad of what we have, and I'm expecting more to come.
Meanwhile, the coalition against President Bola Tinubu's 2027 re-election bid is gathering momentum. The League of Northern Democrats, led by Dr. Umar Ado, has announced the decision to join the coalition after an expanded meeting in Abuja on Thursday. Ado also announced that the League will take a final decision as to whether the coalition will join an existing political party or register a new one to push the agenda on May the 30th. Also, the Senate caucus of the People's Democratic Party, led by Minority Leader Abba Moro, says the party should lead any coalition formed ahead of the 2027 general election, as it is well positioned to steer a coalition capable of strengthening democratic governance.
We encountered challenges when we assumed office in May 2023. But we have made progress by implementing difficult, long overdue, but necessary economic reforms. We have removed corruption leading. The subsidy is gone and was gone. It was gone for the good of this country. We couldn't just afford.
Let's take a closer look at this story. I'm joined by Olusegun Okwande, a chartered accountant in Lagos, and Emeka Obiareri, investment analyst, also in Lagos, as well as Majid Jamiu, a journalist and political commentator in Abuja. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. First, I'll ask you each to respond to what you make of today's show of, at the APC National Summit. It's a show-off, that's what some people are calling it. Some say it feels like a delusional internal party memo Nigerians should never have seen. Others are calling it a symptom of absolute disconnect from reality. What do you make of it? I'll start with you, Olusegun.
Yeah, thank you very much, Adiswa. Good evening and glad to be here this morning. I look at every word that you have used to actually characterize what we heard from Mr. President, and I'm actually looking for a word to use to characterize it from my side when you hear Mr. President saying he has scored himself 100% and he has given Nigerian the best. Yes, maybe from the perspective at which he's rating himself and those things that he has put before himself to do on paper. But when we talk of reality, I'm sure there is a disconnect between Mr. President, those seated at that particular summit, and the common man on the street. And I'll give you some typical example of some of the disconnect that I would say. What are we talking about the issue of security as we speak? Just yesterday, we heard about attack And I listened to the governor of Borno State on one of your sister stations, lamenting, and people are, crying out of the Boko Haram resurgent in some areas. I don't know the scorecard that Mr. President will actually attribute to himself, because we hear, even from the NSA on daily basis, that we have downs down the tension of insecurity. Okay. And I always refer to security as the bedrock at which every government can grow. A peaceful environment is definitely a prosperous environment. As we speak, we lack.
Before I let you go on, the statement you were referring to about the Boko Haram attacks and all was actually here on News Central, if I'm allowed to say that and just, put that out there. But let me quickly bring in Nemeka Obiareri to respond to my question, the one I posed to Olusegun. Is this a delusional internal memo, or is this actually the reality on the ground? Is APC doing great?
Mr. President, I want to score the 100%, and based on his own scorecard, APC is doing absolutely excellently. Of course, you saw it when they took over power. Exchange rate was at 650. Today it's at 1,610. That is a wonderful achievement.
They said it's because of the subsidy, that there is some money somewhere paying for that. And now that it is gone, the reality is here.
Yes, we know. Before we remember when we were still paying subsidy 100%. As at 2010 to 2014, the NNPC was remitting an average of about 3.5 billion every month to the federation accounts. And the latest reports say clearly that despite the role of subsidy, the NNPC barely remits $500 million to $1 billion to the federation account. It's an awesome achievement. At least $3 billion has taken flight despite the role of subsidy. And it's an excellent scorecard. We still have over 20 million kids out of school. Of course, it's not the problem of Mr. President. It's at the table of the governors and local government chairman. It's an excellent scorecard. In Kebbi State, just 3 days ago, 15 farmers were murdered and sacked from their community, and bandits are everywhere. I'll tell you, I'm from Okigwe in Imo State. From Monday till Thursday, nobody stepped out of Okigwe to any part of Imo State or Nigeria. I'm from Okigwe, to be precise, because of the issues of certain domestic terrorists who find themselves on non-government. And there's practical absence of governments in Imo State. Of course, it's not Mr. President's fault. He's doing 100%.
Your sarcasm is making me giggle right now. I'm giggling at your sarcasm. let me bring in Mojid Jamil to respond quickly. APC is doing great.
Yeah, the president, of course, you wouldn't expect him to score himself negative. As expected, he scored himself on a positive, and also the fact to his inauguration day speech where he announced the removal of subsidy. They acknowledge that there are still some areas that needed to be touched and polished, but I don't think it's all due, so to say. In the last 2 years, we can see that what interests most workers is the fact that the ability of governors to be able to pay salaries. I don't think any state is paying salaries any longer. In the past, we used to have some states owing as many as 10 months, 1 year salary. But I think the president has empowered some of the government. And I think the population Nigerians should hold their governors very accountable. A lot of money is going to them now. Even local governments are now being empowered, especially with direct allocation. So we should hold governors and local government chairmen accountable. We shouldn't be passing out the buck as the president who sits in Abuja. The governors and the local government chairmen are closer to us. I think we should hold them accountable too, so that we can have the government closer to the grassroots rather than blaming the president. Yes, the president is supposed to provide security. We still see this lack, like Zulum pointed out, that the state is constantly under attack. We should be able to address the issue of security. And I think what we expect is for people, for the president to score himself high, as expected. So it's left for citizens to decide whether the partner the president has given himself is the real partner. We have another 3 years to take a decision on that with our ballot papers.
Right, absolutely right. And, to your point about governors and local government officials being held more accountable, that's a fact that that's something we're not seeing play out very, very well in our democracy yet. APC governors and the National Assembly leadership endorsing Tinubu's second-term bid. Is this a verdict on the president's performance or just a mere survival strategy?
Everywhere is the ruling party, and he has either the governor or the president. They are normally given the right of first refusal. So it is unexpected that the 22 governors of the APC endorse him today. The APC National Assembly caucus, the chairman of the National Assembly, that's the Senate President, and the Speaker of the House of Reps, on behalf of the APC National Assembly caucus, endorse the President. And we have been seeing some endorsements, but it's just we are 2 years away from elections, and we're already seeing endorsements. And like the President said sarcastically today, I was referring to some people saying Nigeria could turn to a one-party state. But the way he responded was that he doesn't blame those who are jumping out of a sinking ship and coming into a sailing ship, which is that of the APC. So it's basically saying that the opposition, most of the opposition parties are sinking. And so that's why people are coming into his party. So the endorsement, whether or even if all the governors endorse the president, I think, like I said earlier, the power to decide what happens next rests with the people of Nigeria, not the governors or the National Assembly caucus, who themselves are not even sure of their fate. So I think Nigerians will decide in 2027 whether these endorsements are real, whether it is the Nigerian.
Olusegun, is it too? Let me bring in Olusegun now. Is it too early to start scoring the president? Internally, and endorsing him for 2027?
It's okay. Endorsing him for 2027 or for his past performance. If it has to do with his performance in the last 2 years, I think I would say 2 years is where you play a football match. It's like the half time to have assessment of what your second half will look like. And from this endorsement, what I'm saying is we might start abandoning governance and facing the political way of how 2027 will look like. To me, it's pretty too early, if you ask me. But be as it may, as it has come, people should prepare themselves. Because as soon as we have endorsement here and there, you see everybody retiring back to base, and governance will lose its grip, and we concentrate more on politicking, galvanizing ourselves. A lot of people that are doing this endorsement, just like my senior colleague Mojit said, is a survivor for themselves, in the sense that are they guaranteed that they will do? But the first thing is, let's hold on to Mr. Strategy, who understand it and can give us a leeway to say, in all the states where I have the power, at least I can give you the leeway to have a return ticket on this. But I would say that rather than concentrating on endorsement, they should give the best to the Nigerians. Our education is suffering. Mr. President meant well. He said he's going to give out loan. A lot of us criticized it and said, can we have this loan being invested in infrastructure, just like the Awolowos we claim to follow, Jack Ondi we claim to follow. A lot of us we didn't have access to loan, but we have the basic educational infrastructure, which gave us a leeway today. I resided in Lagos. I was born and brought up in Lagos, and the privilege given to us by late Jakonde gave us the opportunity today to have good education, because that was the leverage for all to say. So you can't be talking of giving out loans. So Mr. President on his part has done that, but we have not seen the dividend, because we've seen misappropriation of some of those things. Talk about removal of subsidy and giving so much to the state. How much of it have we followed through in such a way that we can see? The Supreme Court gave a verdict that the local government autonomy, 1 year after, have we seen the implementation of this, or have we seen this happening? So we have a lot of things on paper that are actually fantastic. But when it comes to the implementation, it's not speaking to the reality that is meant to actually take out people from poverty, but rather we are having more people being nosedived into poverty, and that is quite worrisome. This endorsement, as far as I'm concerned, is early, and what we will see after today with this that has happened is seeing governance losing its grip and politicking taking its place.
Absolutely. Nemeka, let me bring you in. You are an investment analyst. The president claims that the subsidy removed is now being channeled into things like education and infrastructure projects, etc. Do you have a sense that this current administration is doing very well with all these areas of the economy?
I am aware that basic economics, development economics states clearly that you measure good governance by looking at the basic HDI parameters, the human development indicators, access to education. What is the literacy level today compared to when Mr. President took over? How many of the kids that are out of school have we enrolled back to school? What is the basic access to healthcare? And what are the expendable incomes in the hand of average Nigerian? GDP per capita 10 years ago was about $3,000. Today is less than $800. The truth is, like somebody pointed out, nobody's holding the governors accountable. Basic education is actually within the purview of the governors and local government chairmen. For us to have literacy level up to 98%, we must go back to basics to ensure qualitative basic education. At least the first 12 years in the life of every kid is very essential and important. I want to use the opportunity to beg Mr. President, let us quit politics and do the right thing. Mr. President has been on record since 1999, an advocate of resource control, fiscal federalism, sovereign national conference, and independence and autonomy of the subnational units. These governors and the National Assembly are all busy lining up because they are not doing anything. All this endorsement you see, we endorse Mr. President. Abbas and Akpabio should go sit down and do their job. The governors should sit down and do their job. And what is that job? If Mr. President can give us restructuring of Nigeria, let me tell us the truth. Nigeria is where we are today because of the foundational issues. Nigeria was what it was in the 60s. We had productivity because we had resource control. Each of the constituent units looked inward to develop. We had 50% resources produced and controlled by the regions, 30 to the center, 20 to the federal government. We need to reduce that exclusive list from 68 to just less than 5. And then what the federal government needs to put program and policy and enforce and ensure that the law takes its course. I saw the other former governor of Kogi State who is being prosecuted by EFCC for allegedly stealing 80 billion. He was there shaking his head and moving his hand. Subsidy is gone. The optics are not right. We must do the right thing. Nobody will hold Mr. President accountable for the current state of the. Somebody mentioned he meant well. And if he truly means well, I want to believe he means well. Mr. President should give us one thing. For the remainder of the 2 years, the only infrastructure we want is for us to totally restructure Nigeria back to the 1960 constitutional framework, enshrine rotational presidency in Nigeria for the first 30 years, 5 years single term for each president, so that it can go around and we'll avoid these dirty policies that we play. The same thing for the governorship. Then for the legislators, 2-term maximum for any legislator, 6 years apart, 6 years per term. When we do this, overhaul the physical constitutional governance framework of Nigeria, execute electoral reform. If Mr. President does this,
all right,
and take us back to that foundation that was, even if he wants to take it 2041.
Well, that's quite an ask. And I'd like to say thank you, gentlemen, for joining me tonight. Nemeka Obiareri, investment analyst. I also had Olusegun Okwade, a chartered accountant. Oju Jamu, journalist and political commentator, was with us earlier. He had to excuse himself. But I would like Mr. Nemeka Obiareri to stay with us because we have another conversation coming up shortly after this break. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Tonight on News Central. I'm Adeshawa Josh. A reminder of our top stories. President Tinubu scores his administration high as National Assembly leadership endorses him for 2027 poll. Opposition coalition gathers steam with PDP charging to lead the pack in a winner-takes-all general election. 2 Israeli embassy staffers shot dead in Washington, D.C. as shooter chanted "Free Palestinians" while being taken into custody. A bill seeking to establish a central agency to manage assets recovered from unlawful activities has passed the second reading in the Senate. Senator representing Lagos West Idiat Adebule sponsored the Proceeds of Crime Bill 2025, which seeks to amend the Proceeds of Crime Act 2022. The bill proposes a new legal framework to enhance transparency, accountability, and efficiency in the handling of recovered assets. Leading the debate on the floor during the plenary on Tuesday, Adebule said the current structure, where 18 agencies manage fortified assets through their directorates, has resulted in duplication of functions, poor oversight, and corruption. Joining me now to discuss the story further is Tony Idedere, a lawyer in Abuja, as well as Nemeka Obiareri, who's been speaking to us, investment banker and analyst. Thank you so much for joining us, you both. Okay, so I'll just go with you straight up, Obiareri, because we're still expecting Tony to join us. 18 agencies were handling forfeited assets. How does that even work, if you have any idea?
Yes, it's a very good bill, and I must commend them for even thinking through it. It's not just recovery of assets by EFCC. There are a lot of assets that are recovered even by the Customs and Excise Department for underdeclared goods or goods that were abandoned at the wharf by importers. So, and of course, we've all known that even NDIC and all those stuff, we all know clearly that most of these assets are properly managed. At the end of the day, it finds itself back to the hand of cronies of the recovery agencies. But beyond establishing such agencies, we must also put in place deterrent measures. I've always said it. The law itself is not meant to destroy anybody. The law is actually meant to ensure good governance and prevent malfeasance in the society. I've always advocated this. One of the easiest ways public sector officials launder money in Nigeria is through acquisition of assets. And if we want to mitigate this, we have provisions that can help us mitigate. And what are those provisions? We just need to amend the CCB Act. Simple. To make public declaration of assets of public office holders public. You cannot, if you don't want to see it, don't go to the kitchen. Make it compulsory. Create an e-portal. Anybody, before you even assume office, you must declare your assets and render it publicly, not ambiguously like Buhari's own. You must state what you owe and what you own. In specific terms, if you have properties, you must state it where it is, and even with valuation. And it must be listed on e-portal, accessible to everybody. Now, we should enshrine on the Whistleblowers Act, we should enshrine a provision that will make it compulsory. Anybody that blows a whistle that leads to recovery of any asset will get 20%. What this simply means that everybody in Nigeria will become an EFCC agent, an EFCC operative. It will become a deterrent because stealing will simply become important. Because even your housewife, even your domestic staff will rant on you because it's going to make a windfall. Number 3, we must make it compulsory for you to register any assets, be it cars, be it houses, be it properties. You must include your team, include your BVN, include your name. Even in the CAC, it must be included as directors and shareholders of a company. It's very simple. Once this is done, even when people launder money and use funds, all you just need to do, Mr. A stole money from the Senate. He goes to the kitchen, he uses domestic staff to go and render. All you do is just print out the statement of account of domestic staff. You can easily find out that this person does not have capacity for his assets. So we know what to do. And then again, make the CCB, the Code of Conduct, privatize it in such a way that it will have agencies in all these 774 local government areas in Nigeria. When we do this, I tell you of a truth, corruption will go down 90% in Nigeria, because stealing will simply become impossible. Because if you steal, you're actually stealing for people that will blow whistle. You cannot even bribe the FCC or DSS or police because you stole a property worth 1 billion. You can't give a policeman 10 million and he will leave you because he's sure of getting 200 million if he helps recover the assets. And as you're bribing agency B is coming after you. As you're bribing agency B, agency C is coming after you.
Let me come in here, if you will.
This country.
I mean, so people are confusing. So it's a bit confusing for some people because they're saying, what then happens to EFCC? What's going to happen to the 18 agencies that are currently managing the forfeited assets? Like, how is this going to work?
Those agencies have no business managing those assets. And that is the truth. If whoever proposed this bill must be commended. It's a very excellent bill. Recover, hand over. It's not the job of EFCC. It's not just like AMCON. When AMCON absorbed toxic assets from banks, on behalf of the federal government of Nigeria, on behalf of the taxpayers, they manage it. It's something that should be an agency. Like I said, if we put in place this measure that can help us to easily, because it's one thing to recover, it's another thing to manage. It's another thing also to create deterrence. These policies I have initiated here, those will take even more than 48 hours for the National Assembly to amend the laws and pass it, and the president will assent to it. If we do this, we will put a check. Once we recover any asset, hand over to that agency. And of course, the agency that is recovering a hard level will also watch over it to ensure that those managing it do not misappropriate it. So I think it's a very good bill and that should be commended.
Before I let you go, my question is, how do you think the establishment of this new agency will affect the roles and responsibilities of existing agencies? You have already answered that question, but what are the key provisions of the Proceeds of Crime Recovery and Management Bill that's just been proposed, and how do they align with international best practices in asset recovery and management?
Like I said, laws are meant based on the uniqueness and the contemporary need of any society. Laws cannot be the same in different society, in different societies. People make law and amend laws just to be ahead of those who want to circumvent them. Like I mentioned to you here, there was nothing wrong with people declaring their assets secretly, but we discovered in Nigeria that people anticipate what they want to steal and declare it in advance. So to deter it, like I've suggested here, we must amend the laws to make it compulsory. If you don't want to go to public office, if you don't want your privacy to be invaded, don't come into public office. Stay in your private corner. Once you decide you want to go and serve publicly, you must be accountable to the public. So you declare it openly in a portal, a digital portal accessible to everybody. And then we'll make it compulsory. A whistleblowers. Once you blow whistle, whatever is recovered, you will get 20%. We tell the truth. We know the truth. When we do this and make it compulsory, for you to register assets, be it car, be it house, be it properties, you must include your name, your team, and your BVN.
Yeah, let me quickly bring in Tony Itedere. Is that how to pronounce your name? Itedere.
Yes, Itedere.
Okay. Thank you. A lawyer from joining us from Abuja. And my question would be, what steps can be taken to assure a smooth transition from the current system that we have to the new agency? Because this is going to create a lot of problems, clearly, between these agencies that are currently handling this, the forfeiture of assets.
It's okay. I think the legislature at this stage, they are trying to harmonize what we have already in the Proceeds of Crime Act 2022. So in that act, if you go to section 82, you will discover that that's the definition portion of the act. And that particular definition section itemizes about 18 agencies. So what this new review should do is to find a way of ensuring that instead of these respective 18 agencies or government institutions, it's not just about the EFCC, like some news media want to make it. The police is there, the army is there, the custom is there, Standard Organization of Nigeria is there, and several others. They have what they call the directorate in each of these agencies. So what the Act seeks to do is to harmonize it. Let's have a single entity, a single agency that will now manage, instead of each of these agencies with their respective aims and objectives for which they were set up, also managing property and assets that come into their possession in line with their legislative, in line with the creating statute. What this particular statute seeks to do is to harmonize it so that a particular agency of government will not take care of all of these functions for each of these respective agencies, including the police.
Nemeka, I have to wrap up this session. Your final word on this issue.
It's a commendable bill, and they should go ahead, not just enough managing what is covered. We should put deterrence in place. And like I've listed it out, it will not take the National Assembly 48 hours, less than 1 week, pass the first bill, second bill. If they want, we have a draft of the bill we can send to them. Put deterrence in place. But of course, I know that most of them will not want it, because if they put some deterrence in place, it will checkmate their works and what they've been doing since 1999.
I mean, we have to be optimistic. It has passed second reading, so there's got to be something, in the Senate.
I am talking about the additions to this. It's not just enough to manage the recovered assets. We should amend the CCB Act and other relevant laws just based on the recommendations that I've given here to enable us act as deterrence.
That's right.
It's pretty possible that one man will steal money to build over 750 duplexes. It was possible because there was no deterrence. If there was such deterrence that like I mentioned, it would have even happened in the first place. The best laws are the laws that deter people. It's not as if Nigerians are more corrupt than Americans than the Britishers. What is just simply making it happen here, we is free for all stealing and looting, is because there are no deterrents. And
all right,
of course,
we're going to have to leave it there.
There are no consequences.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there tonight. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Tony Tejre, a lawyer who joining us from Abuja, as well as Nemeka Obiareri, investment banker. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me tonight.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
President Bola Tinubu was sworn in the board and management of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited 7 weeks after their appointment on April the 2nd. The board's non-executive chairman, Amadu Kida, and NNPCL's group chief executive officer, Bashir Ojulari, were sworn in at a brief ceremony held at the State House on Thursday afternoon, moments before the president attended the National Summit of the All Progressive Congress at the State House Banquet Hall. The 11-member board includes Adidapo Shegun and Bello Rabiu, representing the Northwest, Yusuf Usman, representing the Northeast, and Babs Omotowa, a former managing director of the Nigeria Liquefied Natural Gas, representing the North Central. Also on the board are Austin Avuru, non-executive director for the South-South, David Ige, representing the Southwest, and Henry Obi, representing the Southeast.
The board is diverse. What excites me in the board is people who have private sector, real-life private sector experience, people who have experience working in NNPC, which means we have institutional memories of where things can be improved. And we also have representatives from the Ministry of Petroleum and Ministry of Finance that allow us to ensure that we stay, aligned with the national agenda at a detailed level of execution. So I feel very privileged to have such a board. And together with my management team, I'm confident that we will achieve the aspiration of Nigerians and the expectations from this God-given wealth.
And I think the message that we want to pass to all Nigerians is that our task and our mandate is to be able to bring proper governance, proper corporate governance to NNPC Limited, to put in the best of industry process practices, and finally, for the country to be better off, seeing us as a profit center.
The management of Agence France Presse, that's the French international news agency, paid News Central a courtesy visit today with their counterpart to foster the collaboration between both media houses. The strategic meeting focused on key issues bordering on editorial policies, news reportage, and media coverage, with emphasis on developmental journalism. News Central's Omolola Ololade has the details.
Help me welcome our friends from AFP, please.
The collaboration between Africa's foremost TV station, News Central, and an international news agency, Agence France Presse, AFP, has been strengthened as the management of AFP paid a courtesy visit to the leadership of News Central to discuss ways of improving editorial policies, positive coverage of the continent with a focus on developmental journalism in Africa.
Even the local station.
The management of News Central believes there are benefits of having a working relationship with an international news agency such as AFP, with special focus on reporting the African story from an African perspective, while becoming more digitally inclined across its digital output and trainings.
The ambition actually is to beat every media outlet that is anywhere around the world in the coverage of Africa, but we know we don't have the financial power to do that all by ourselves. So what we would like is to lean on you a little bit, lean on some of the other media houses that are local to some of those African countries, and that partnership and relationship hopefully will help us to cover Africa and respond to things.
How might we benefit from AFP's experience, not just in production, news, but also across countries and regions?
We do quite a lot of stories.
The management of AFP, on the other hand, emphasized sharing the common goal with News Central, especially as it focuses on changing the narrative in terms of reportage.
Very in-depth stories on society, on culture. We're doing a lot of interviews now of personalities from culture, but also from economical leaders, if we can, or that kind of thing, to have a more diverse coverage that reflects not only what is happening in Africa, but what is happening in terms of breaking news, but what is happening in society.
There is a need, as Pierre said very well, that we need to cover breaking news. Yes, there is a return of an increase of insurgency and jihadist attacks in Northeast Africa, in Northeast Nigeria, and in Lake Chad and everything. There is a war in DRC, but there is life. There is development. There is innovation. Everything is being created in Africa right now. This is the reason why I'm staying in Nigeria, because I do think that it is the hub of creativity in the continent.
While the partnership between News Central and AFP has tremendously improved over the last 18 months, the meeting between both parties will not only foster the relationship, but also amplify the reportage of African continent in a positive way.
Have you tried the black magic?
In Lagos for News Central, Omolola Ololade. Nigeria's cultural wealth was at its finest at the National Museum in Lagos as stakeholders, students, and heritage lovers gathered to mark the International Museum Day 2025. The theme, Future of Museums in Rapidly Changing Communities, opened up conversations on how museums can remain relevant in a fast-evolving society. The Central correspondent Oluwakemi Alimi has the report.
2025 International Museum Day came alive with traditional music, dance, and a celebration of heritage.
International Museum Day is usually celebrated to create awareness, on the importance of the museums. We need to, involve the youth in the preservation of our cultural heritage.
Dressed in vibrant traditional attire from various ethnic groups, pupils, students, museum staff and guests turned the museum into a gallery of Nigerian diversity. Cultural performances in songs, chants, dances and poetry brought the museum's courtyard to life. A highlight of the event was the museum tour, not led by expats, but by school children. These young cultural ambassadors confidently took guests around the museum, interpreting historical artifacts and artworks with clarity and enthusiasm.
We see the Eyo masquerade used in Lagos State right here. This was used to inaugurate the king for the king's coronation and to bring in the king. During the early colonial days, Europeans brought in their inventions like tailors, like bicycles, books, and sewing machines into the local lives.
Here we have the musical instruments used in the olden days. This is a talking drum.
Their brilliance and eloquence left many guests impressed and hopeful about the future of arts and culture in Nigeria. The guest speaker, curator of the Railway Museum in Ebute Metta, Lagos, highlighted the important roles museums play in society.
The museum strives to be a center of inspiration to the community. It is the expanded views of going beyond collection and responsibility to using collection to inspire.
Discussions also focused on how museums can adapt to rapid social change, becoming more inclusive, interactive, and accessible to all, with a clear message that the museum is not just a place of the past, but a vibrant bridge to the future. In Lagos, for News Central, Oluwakemi Alimi.
And outside our shores, a tragedy struck near the heart of Washington, D.C. late Wednesday as 2 Israeli embassy staffers were shot dead outside the Capitol Jewish Museum, just a mile from the White House. The victims have been identified as Yaron Lishchinsky, an Israeli national, and Sarah Lane Milgrim, an American citizen and U.S. employee of the Israeli embassy. According to Israeli sources, the two were a couple and may have been planning to marry. The shooting occurred during an event for young professionals and diplomatic staff. Washington, D.C. police say the suspected gunman, 30-year-old Elias Rodrigo from Chicago, was taken into custody after surrendering. Let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll be talking money, the economy, sports, and entertainment. Do stay with us. It's time for some money talks with Lekon. Lekon, I hear 300 billion in bonds is up for grabs.
Well, yes, of course. That's how the Nigerian government is trying to raise funds domestically to fund its expenditure. Let me tell you more. Now, the Debt Management Office has announced the offer of 300 billion naira in federal government of Nigeria bonds for subscription via auction on May 26, 2025. According to a statement on the DMO's website, the offering consists of 2 reopened bonds, that is a 5-year bond with a 19.3% coupon rate targeting 100 billion naira, and a 9-year bond carrying 19.89% coupon rate aimed at raising 200 billion naira. Settlement is scheduled for May 28, 2025, enabling successful bidders to begin accruing interest promptly. Bonds are issued in units of 1,000 naira with a minimum subscription of over 50 million naira and additional subscriptions in multiples of 1,000 naira. Dangote Petroleum Refinery has slashed the pump price of premium motor spirit by 15 naira, and petrol now retails at 875 naira per litre in Lagos, 885 naira in the southwest, and 895 naira in the northwest and north central. The southeast, south-south, and northeast will see prices at 905 naira per litre. These rates apply to partners like MRS, Ardova, Heyden, and others. The refinery, aligning with President Tinubu's Nigeria First policy, invited more marketers to join its network. This follows previous reductions of about 125 naira in February and 45 naira in April, alongside diesel and LPG price cuts that we've seen in operations in a couple of days back. We now look at Nigeria's stock market. Now, the Nigerian exchange closed lower as the all-share index dipped at 0.40% to settle at 109,183.02 points with a market capitalization of 68.62 naira. And this decline reflects a generally bearish sentiment influenced by sectoral weaknesses, especially in insurance and consumer goods. Now, I'll tell you more about that looking at sectoral performance. Now, the banking industry started decline, shedding 0.4% as profit taking persisted in tier 1 stocks, and the insurance sector recorded the biggest loss of the day, 1.68% in a drop, reflecting investor apathy amid weak earnings. We look at the oil and gas. Well, it's actually bland, but then some people consider it as growth. Consumer and industrial goods all in the reds in terms of how they did perform. And this is a wrap of how we tracked the Nigerian stock market. As for today, I am Lekon Obanjo. To stay with us, we have more for you.
Welcome back. It's time for the latest in sports news. Udoka is here, the latest from the National Sports Festival.
Yeah, of course. The Cycling Federation of Nigeria has suspended Edo State coach Jackson Iyobosa from the ongoing festival, the Gateway Games, due to gross misconduct and unruly behavior. The suspension is effective immediately and bars coach Ardova from attending any cycling competitions or visiting the cycling venue. The letter of suspension signed by CFN Secretary General Joel Akinlua cited his unacceptable behavior on the 21st of May during the cycling event at the Games. According to the Cycling Federation, Coach Edowa's misconduct involved threatening to take the life of invited commissary, talking about Osaretin Emuze, and accusing him of influencing the outcome of the male team pursuits. The Federation stated that for the suspension to be lifted, Coach Ardova is required to submit a formal letter of apology to the Cycling Federation of Nigeria within 48 hours. Meanwhile, host Ogun State gave their fans something to cheer about on day 4 of the handball event at the festival, grinding out a dramatic 21-20 victory over determined Delta in the men's category. In other matches, Team Edo earned a 30-19 win over Adamawa. Lagos also impressed, defeating Osun with a comfortable 29-18 scoreline. In the final men's fixture of the day, it was FCT proving too strong for Niger, talking about them securing a solid 26-21 win. In the only match in the female category, Oyo State outclassed Imo in a highly competitive tie, winning that one 31-26. In football, the Confederation of African Football has unveiled a new CAF Champions League trophy, marking a bold new chapter in the legacy of Africa's premier club competition. The unveiling ceremony took place in Johannesburg, South Africa. One of this year's finalists, Mamelodi Sundowns of South Africa or Pyramids FC of Egypt, will write their names in history when they lift the newly designed trophy. The previous trophy, introduced in 2007, has been retired after 18 years of use. Egyptian giants Al Ahly were the last club to lift it, having won the tournament last season. In the world of table tennis, Quadri Arena's 2025 IWTF World Championships run ended on Thursday after a 4th-round defeat to Brazil's Hugo Calderano in Doha. The highly anticipated men's singles clash at the arena proved one-sided as Calderano cruised to a 4-love win. The Brazilian effectively dismantled Arena's game plan, targeting his backhand to neutralize the Nigerian's trademark forehand. Calderano's precise technique and aggressive topspin plays gave him full control of the 22-minute match, securing a place in the quarterfinals. In spite of the result, Arena continues to break new grounds. At the age of 36, he becomes the first African to reach the IWTF World Championships round of 16 on 2 occasions. In Doha, Arena was also the only African to finish among the top 16 players in the men's singles.
Now let's take a look at a summary of entertainment news tonight. A legendary high life hit finds new life. Bright Tunese's classic because of English, a surprise entry into the Spotify Nigeria viral chart 41 years after release, thanks to a nod from Davido. Meanwhile, in New York, rapper Kid Cudi takes the stand in Shandidi Combs' federal trial, revealing explosive claims.
Tonight on Entertainment News, over 4 decades after its original release, Bright Chimeze's classic high-life hit, Because of English, has re-entered the spotlight, debuting at number 99 on the Spotify Nigeria Viral Chart. The renewed interest came after Davido cited the song as a key inspiration for his 2025 hit With You, featuring Omale from his 5th studio album 5. The track, produced by Tempo, blends nostalgic highlife and funk elements, paying homage to the sound popularized in the 1970s and 80s by legends like Chimeze. The resurgence of Because of English aligns with a growing trend of Nigerian artists drawing from older local music. Davido recently hosted Chimeze in Lagos to celebrate the song's influence, with videos capturing warm interaction and a video call to Osun State Governor Ademola Adeleke. This follows similar examples in 2024, such as Thames sampling Seyi Shodimu's Love Me Jeje and Ashake reworking Jasmine Olofin's Raise the Roof. Classic Nigerian songs are increasingly being revived by a new generation, connecting past and present in an evolving music landscape. Rapper Kid Cudi testified at Sean Diddy Combs' federal sex trafficking and racketeering trial in New York, recounting a 2011 incident where Combs allegedly broke into his Hollywood Hills home after discovering Cudi was dating Combs' then off-and-on girlfriend Cassie Ventura. Kid Cudi said Ventura called him scared, warning that she had given Combs his address. Upon returning home, Cudi found his house disturbed and reported the breaking. He also later learned his car had mysteriously caught fire, an act Ventura alleged Combs was responsible for in a civil lawsuit, which he settled for $20 million. Prosecutors cited this incident as part of a broader 20-year pattern of coercion, abuse, and intimidation tied to Combs' alleged freak-off sex parties. Ventura previously testified to being physically abused and threatened by Combs, including threats against her and Kid Cudi. Combs, who has pleaded not guilty, remains in federal custody and denies all wrongdoings, arguing the encounters were consensual.
That's the news tonight. Please send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on your screen. Follow us on all social media platforms. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, AVO TV, and on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Adeshoa Josh. I'll see you on Friday.